Okay, so my name's Lee Hammer. Just want to start off by super grateful to be here today and have this opportunity to be of service, share my experience, strength, and hope. So you all came for this title, the formula of finding your first job. You guys are about to graduate, and it's like, what's next? And I didn't get hit with that reality till about 3 months after graduation, so you're already ahead of where I was. This is kind of misleading because it's talking about finding your first job, and what I'm going to talk about right now is it doesn't stop at your first job. I want to ingrain a mindset and a set of skills in you that are going to help you find your first job, the job after that, and open up your whole life to fulfilling your potential. This isn't just about your first gig. This is about the way you approach life. So that's what my face looks like. This is our shameless plug. I work for a company called Taze Tech, and we do some really cool stuff in the IT space. We have two sides to our business. We build digital storefronts, also known as e-commerce. Think of Amazon. Super exciting place to be right now. And on the other side of that is we do these tech talent solutions. So I have a number of different clients who are like, hey, I need software engineers, I need tech people, and they come to me. To give you a little background on what that marketplace looks like right now, or that industry, in 2015 there was 4.4 million IT jobs open in the big data space alone. So you have IT, that's a gigantic umbrella, and then within that there's a silo called big data. So in that silo alone, 4.4 million jobs. You guys know how many got filled out of those 4.4 million openings? Only a third of them. There's a huge gap between the supply and demand of tech talent in the world today. And so a lot of my clients come to me because they need to get connected with that talent. So as I'm here and I speak with you guys today, feel free to come and approach me and we'll talk and we can explore opportunities, we can collaborate. And I don't want you to keep yourself in a little shell of like, hey, this is my major, so I can only do this. I'm in technology, and when I was at ASU, my major was supply chain management. I didn't even know that the industry I'm in now existed at the time of my graduation. So again, we're going to talk about networking, opening doors, and keeping an open mind, but just keep that in mind as we walk through this. Here's my contact info. If you guys want to spam me your resumes, I'll check them out. I'm super impressed too, by the way, for you guys being here at 10 a.m., especially being ASU students. But I remember when I was at ASU, dude, like, there was no class that started before noon, unless it was like the hardcore WP Carry classes. Anybody WP Carry? What? Yeah, there you go, man, sweet. Okay, cool, so let's do story time. We're gonna take a trip back to what Lee Hammer looked like while he was a student at ASU. 2011, I was a really introverted, shy kid. I got good grades, I had extracurriculars, and I made Dean's List multiple times. But I was solely focused, I thought my GPA was gonna get me a job. And we were working on a class project, and I had a friend named Saleh. He's an international student. So we're sitting there, it's like, we're getting close to graduation, man, final projects. And Saleh goes, dude, you gonna go to the career fair tomorrow? It's like, no, why would I do that, man? Like, we got this project, I gotta finish this. And he's like, you need to go career fair, I was like, I don't need the career fair, man. And so, fast forward a little bit, we graduate, Saleh gets a job, I didn't get a job. I picked my degree for one reason and one reason only. I walked into the career fair as like a sophomore, and I was in the Career Services Center, and I was checking out the pamphlets, and I was thinking like, what do I want to do with my future? Well, honestly, I don't know if I'm passionate about accounting or finance or any of this stuff. I just want to make sure I get a job. And there was one pamphlet on it that said 100% hire rate after college. I was like, I think I'll take that one. And that was supply chain management. Back in the day, Walmart had just taken over the world from their optimized and efficient supply chain. It was like high in demand. We were ranked number 2 in the nation, second only to Stanford. And I was like, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I think I'm gonna do that. So I went about my way, and like I told you, with my experience with Saleh, man, like he was saying career fair, I was like, no, GPA. So I graduate, and I had talked to my parents, man, and when they graduated school, like we learn about life through observing our parents. When they came out of school, it was a completely different world than where we live today. Both of my parents had multiple job offers coming out of school. I didn't have one. So Saleh gets a job, I don't get a job. I'm just kind of nervous. Then I'm getting on a plane one time, right? And I see this kid that I had a class with. And I'm like, what's up, dude? What are you up to? He's like, oh, I work for the airline, so I fly wherever I want every weekend for free. I was like, what? That's crazy. I was still unemployed. I was like, I helped you pass class, man. Like, how did you get a job and I didn't get a job? This is blowing my mind, like, absolutely ridiculous. So let's fast forward a few years. I found my first gig through a personal connection. I became this hotshot consultant. We were doing statistical process improvement. Now that came from a connection, that didn't come from a job board or a job portal. It was somebody I know taking a chance on me at that time because he thought I had potential. I'm traveling the world. I'm working with huge corporations like Phillips 66, J.C. Penney's, Rent-A-Center. I'm flying to corporate headquarters every day of the week. They even sent me to Hamburg, Germany on a few extended trips to run projects. Life was cool, man. Life was super cool. I thought I had made it, but this is what my life looked like. So I'm traveling 100% of the time, Monday through Friday. I get home Friday night, wash my clothes Saturday. Sunday, I pack my bags, I hit the road again Monday. And I did that for about 4 to 5 years. And I saw one number go up, my bank account, but I watched like my life around me kind of suffer. And I had my wife, and we had 3 kids. She kind of goes, dude, like, I need you home. Like, I can't raise this family solo. So I got to pivot. I got to figure something out. And again, I tell her, like, none of my clients are in Phoenix. My clients are in Dallas, they're in Houston, they're in the Bay Area. Like, I don't have any clients that I can just go drum up business with here. But we made a decision, man, and I've always made my priorities, and family's always been the number one. That's the whole reason I work. That's the whole reason I go hop on planes when I have to, is to take care of them. So I had to make a decision. But once again, I'm entering an environment where I have no connections. And I'm looking at the Phoenix job market, and they don't really have a lot of openings for statistical process improvement guys like what I was doing at the time. So I felt the pain once again of not having a network. And I'm sitting there each day, and I'm on the job boards and the job portals, and initially you might start with like 1 a day. And it's like, I think I'm a pretty good fit for this. And you submit it, and you're like, I'll hear back. Definitely hear back. I didn't hear back. So after applying for like 1 job a day for a week, I was like, maybe I need to up my game a bit. Started applying for like 5 or 10 a day. And it's, dude, if you're on a job board, it's a process, man. They want to know, you're entering the same information over and over and over and over. Like, what's your name? What's your social security? Who is your 3rd grade teacher? Did she like you? Was she nice? Like, all of this stuff, man. But each one has like a little tweak in it to where you can't just like rinse and repeat. You got to continuously put the thought into filling out these applications. And it's mind-numbing. It drives me absolutely bonkers. I hate it. Well, after about a month of like not hearing back, not even for an interview, not for a phone call, not for anything. And dude, I don't consider myself a scrub. I was a hotshot consultant who was flying all over the world, man. I've met with C-level executives at Phillips 66. And you don't want to talk to me? Like, I got something to offer, right? So then I start getting desperate, and I discovered this thing called the Easy Apply button. And that's where you apply to like 200 jobs by clicking 1 button. So I do that, and I still don't hear back. And I'm kind of surfing through it. I'm like, dude, some of these jobs is like assistant janitor. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm qualified for that, right? Like, what's going on here? It's crazy. So again, these are the frustrations that come from not having a network and taking the wrong strategy and the wrong approach. So really why I'm here to speak with you today is to alleviate some of that pain for you. I have no economic motive whatsoever for this other than to hopefully share some information with you guys that'll make you better off than I was. I love presentations because I always forget what's on the next slide, so it's like a guessing game for me too. I'm like, what's next? The dilemma. Okay, cool. So that's your dilemma, man. Like, you have no work experience, you have no connections. How are you supposed to compete with somebody who has 5 years experience, 10 years experience in an industry where they know everybody in the industry? How are you supposed to compete? Anybody? You got an idea? How are you going to compete with that? You can't manufacture work experience. You can't. You know what I mean? Like, we're honest people with integrity, character. That's the most important thing. You can't just say you have 5 years experience on your resume, man. Like, they will sniff you out, and they will grill you. They will rip your heart out, man. And you don't want to be that person anyways, right? Like, you don't want to be that. It's not cool. So the big dilemma, no experience, no connections. Well, you can't manufacture experience, but I'll tell you what you can do. You can build connections. And it's actually an art. Building connections, building a network is an art form. It's something I take a lot of pride in. I would like to humbly share with you, like, through these skills that I'm about to share with you, I've quadrupled my income in 2.5 years, okay? This isn't just your first job, this is your life. So glad we got to this slide, so now I can just freestyle. Okay, cool. So, how are you gonna build connections? Well, as you explore and you learn, there's these things called networking events, there's these things called meetups. And the first thing you do is you're sitting in a house applying to job boards, no one's responding, and you feel like a loser. So I'm not connected to anyone, I'm not hearing back, but I know that connections will bring opportunities. So you have this mental shift of like, holy cow, I need to make connections. That's the first shift, but there's multiple shifts, so don't just stop here. So what most people do is, holy cow, I need connections. They go to one of these meetups, they go to one of these networking events, and they do one of two things initially. They either show up, they say, hey, my name's so-and-so, I'm looking for a job. And then when nobody approaches them, they disappear and never come back, and they say networking events suck. I see it happen every single day. Sometimes you got like a brave, ambitious young kid who's like kind of gutsy, and he comes and he turns into this dude that I call the business card dealer. And he's the dude who enters the room, and within a span of an hour, he's shaken hands with everybody, he's handed them a business card, he's handed them a resume, and he knows nothing about them. And you can spot him a mile away. You can spot him a mile away, and it turns people off. Because when you operate and act that way, everybody knows that you don't have their best interest at heart. You're trying to use them, you're trying to take something from them, you just want to leverage them. And unfortunately, you don't want to be that guy, but that's the guy you transform into after the initial shift. The initial shift of like, holy cow, connections equal opportunities, I need to get connected, then you have that shift. Then, if you stay in the game long enough, you realize, holy cow, nobody's responding to me, maybe I'm doing something wrong. And that's when you realize that connections mean relationships. And in any relationship, you have to bring something to the table. And the next shift that you go through after you realize you need connections is what I like to call this mindset of service. So let's dip back to when I was trying to find a job in Phoenix. I had no network, I had no connections, I didn't have any relevant work experience. Once again, a connection, somebody who knew me, who liked me, who wanted to give me an opportunity, pulled me into their company, but I still didn't know anyone. So I started going to these meetups. And it's really easy, man, especially a guy like me. Like when I went to class, I attended class, what I did was I sat in the back of the room, I sat throughout the class, and when it was done, I left. One time I finally got the guts to raise my hand, I got the question wrong, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. And I sat for 4 years quietly in the back of a room, and I got a piece of paper that said I graduated. But so that's my default. That's like who I am as a person, a very introverted wallflower dude. But so I'm in Phoenix, I'm looking for a gig, right? And these are high-level professionals who are experts in their realm, and I feel like I have nothing to offer. Why would they want to talk to me, dude? Well, I kind of figured something out. I figured out that if I approach this and I join this community, not just attend the meetup, but I commit to this community, interesting things happen. So I started showing up early. And normally the organizer, the person running the meetup would be there. And what I'd do is I'd connect with them. And if you understand the power of networks, there's different people who are like considered hubs or connectors. Like an organizer of a meetup is connected to 100 other people. And as you connect with these different hubs or connectors, your network expands exponentially. And if you understand the value of a network, it's the number of users squared. So if you take a telephone, it's useless. But if you take a telephone and have 2 people, now it has value. You take a telephone and add 4 people, there's even more value. That's why Facebook's killing it right now, is the size of their network. I could build an app, I could build a social network, but it wouldn't be worth anything because there's no users on it, right? So the value of a network comes from the number of users within a network. So when you first attend this meetup, you first attend this networking event, you want to meet the organizer because they're a connector or a hub. Then you want to have the mindset of service. I have nothing to offer, I'm new to the industry, I don't have any friends, I'm kind of funny looking, whatever, right? So what can I do? Dude, I quadrupled my income from stacking chairs, moving tables, and throwing away pizza boxes. Does that make sense yet? I did have something to contribute. I was of service, dude. These guys who put together these events, it's a ton of work. They work really hard. All these guys at this conference, I have the utmost respect for what they do, and they probably think I'm crazy because every single one of them I've asked, hey, do you need help? Do you need help moving chairs? Do you need help setting up tables? I'm like, dude, who is this guy? It's fine, we got it. But that allowed me to become a part of this community because as other people trickled in to the meetups that I was setting up the chairs and tables, automatically their defenses were down because they're like, this dude's a part of this dude's helping out. And then you build real relationships with people over time. You're not gonna do a one and done, dude. You're not gonna go make $1 million from hitting a networking event one time. But if you attend and commit to a meetup and you're of service and you attend it for a year and a half, you're gonna have a network full of people who can bring opportunities to you. So that's 2 things that I'm really into. The networking events, I'm a firm believer in them. I just sponsored the one last night at the Phoenix React.js meetup, and it's pretty cool, man. You got like 100 people in one room, all with common interests, and the first time I showed up, I was a wallflower, dude. I was like, hey, my name's Lee. And like last night, it was like, cool, seeing all my buddies, man. Like I felt like a part of the community, but you gotta be of service to become a part of the community. Next, I would like to talk about social media. This is kind of like the tangent out here that I'm passionate about, but isn't directly related to the first 2 as much. So, who here is on social media? Dude, you guys aren't on social media? You just don't want to raise your hand. I would be amazed. I'm like, what? No way. No. Yo, that's chill, man. Yeah, I went off the grid for a while. And then I was like, let's get it going again. But let's talk about social media. So everybody here was around in the early 90s? No? Oh, snap. All right, that's cool. We're still friends. All right, so let's go 98. You guys were 2. Just try to remember, try to recall, okay? You're a kid, it's Saturday morning, and there's Saturday morning cartoons playing, right? You're hanging out, you're watching SpongeBob. Life is good. But then there's these things called commercials. And every 15 minutes, you gotta sit through this commercial. And you don't really like learning about Tide laundry detergent or Downy fabric softener or Hanes underwear, but you gotta put up with watching this in order to see the cartoon that you enjoy. Now at that time, and still today, but in different formats, companies are spending billions of dollars running commercials like that. Now, do you know why they spend billions of dollars on commercials and advertising? What was that? To get your attention, man. Because these companies and corporations understand the value of people's attention. There is a war going on, man. It's an all-out battle for people's attention. Now, if you're on social media, you're probably not using it the same way I'm using it, because I have a different understanding of social media. Now, I'm kind of a hermit. I'm like a grouch, dude. I'm like Scrooge. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Snapchat, but I do have LinkedIn. Pretty much because I am zeroed in 100% on my professional network. But guess what, dude? You connect with me on LinkedIn, you know what just happened? You gave me free access to your attention span. Now, I know the value of that, but I want you guys to understand the value of that. By connecting with me on LinkedIn, I have access to your attention span at any given time of day, whenever I like, post, or comment something. So here you are, you're on an island looking for a job. Anybody that connects with you on social media is an opportunity for you to promote yourself. Now, I come from a blue-collar town in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho, man, 55,000 people. Most of the dudes work for the railroad. And I was raised in this culture and this mindset that didn't really serve me well. So in a blue-collar town, man, you don't talk about yourself, you don't talk about your money, and you don't show off. You keep your head down, you work hard, you mind your own business. And that's the way I was raised. And so I'm going to these job interviews, and I feel weird talking about myself. I feel weird talking about my accomplishments. I'm on social media, and I'm not posting about anything I'm doing. I read 37 books in 9 months. I read about a book a week. Lately, that's been down a little bit because I'm doing other things like online. I'm taking a Java course online, and I'm studying real estate investing and some other things. But essentially, I read a book every week, right? So I'm at work one day, and I feel pretty good about myself. I feel knowledgeable about myself. And it's not reciprocated. Like, people at work are like, who are you, man? What do you know? Or people you meet, they're like, who are you? What do you know? And it kind of hurt my feelings. I'm a sensitive dude. I was like, what's going on, man? Like, I work super hard. How come people don't, like, recognize all the stuff I do? Like, putting in 60-hour weeks, man. Which I'll talk about, too, like, that whole work ethic thing and how you build your life. It's between what you do between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. Between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. working hours, everybody's playing the same game. You want to get ahead? Look at how you spend your time outside of work. That's besides the point. So I'm all butthurt that nobody recognizes the work I do or my contributions or my desire to grow and learn. And I'm talking to a good buddy of mine, and he goes, dude, nobody is going to know what you're doing unless you tell them. I was like, yeah, man, like, dude, I read all these books, but why do I expect people to know that? I've never told them. I'm deep diving on my own all the time, but you got to share it with the world. If you want to be, and the super low-key workhorse guy is a cool badge to wear for a while, but it's not going to serve you in life. You're going to feel underpaid, underappreciated, and you're going to get burnt out. That's who I was, man. When my son was born, I took 3 days off work, and that included a weekend. I missed 1 day of work when my son was born. That was my commitment to work. It didn't serve me unless other people know how hard I work and what I'm doing. Nobody cares that you only missed a day of work when your son was born unless they hear that from you. And so when I go to social media, man, or when I go to interviews, I had to overcome this mindset of don't talk about yourself, don't talk about what you're doing, that's braggadocious, don't be that guy. You can be really genuine and humble and modest and share what you're doing with the world. And since I've overcome that hurdle, that other perspective shift in my life has absolutely blown up exponentially. I couldn't tell you the benefits that have come through my life through walking through this process. And that's why I'm super glad you guys showed up here today. That's why I'm grateful that I can share this information with you, because I spent a decade doing a lot of things the wrong way. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know how to help anybody else. And I didn't know how valuable people's attention was. And so that's about the gist of it. What I'd really like to do is for you guys coming out here today and whatnot, I just want to open the floor. We can do some Q&A. You could be like, hey, Lee, that sounded cool, but like, what do you mean by that? Or what's this? Like, please raise your hands. Let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's connect. And let me be of service to you guys, because that's really the whole point of me being here. So what do you guys think? Wait, you guys want to see what's on the next slide? Oh, nailed it. Okay, cool. All right. ASU grads. Who here has a job lined up? Besides you. Nobody? Who here is scared about looking for a job? Who here is nervous that they won't find a job? Okay. Who here is brave enough to kind of tell me about what their strategy has been so far and if they've had any luck with it? You guys got to do better than what I was doing. I was sitting at a computer just clicking easy apply. Apparently I'm not qualified to be assistant janitor. But no worries. Oh, hey, yeah, can we get her a mic or? Hey, thanks.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about a lot of these sites that post jobs that are out there now. There's a number of them, and they're very specific. Like if you put in a title, say you put in physics, well then they're like, well, physics professors, you need to have a PhD. Well, there's a lot of different jobs that are posted on these sites, and I don't know how successful they are as far as people getting jobs through them, if they really work, if you have any experience on that. As far as applying to some of these jobs, it's sort of like sending your resume out into the cyberspace and you never hear from anybody again. Because a lot of these companies, I think they sort of frame their, now that there's thousands and millions of people applying for things like this, just like when kids apply to school, they have a parameter of what they're looking for. And if you don't meet that parameter, you're knocked out immediately. So it makes it harder for you to make these connections. So is that a useful tool?
Hey, I'm really glad you asked that. So, two things. First thing, I am like the anti-job board guy. Now, I believe you should always stay open-minded, and when it comes to job boards, the one that I've heard the best reviews on is Indeed. However, I also happen to work in staffing and recruiting and have a little bit of an idea of how that whole process works on the back end. Sometimes positions on job boards is a matter of them going and doing due diligence when they've already found a candidate that they like. But because of company policies or whatever, they're required to post it for a certain number of days, and they don't always necessarily even look at the resumes. So when it comes to what I would do and my approach, I'm very targeted. If you know a company you're interested in, or let's use that example. So there's a company you're interested in. You go search it on LinkedIn, and it's going to list all the employees who are currently at that company. And I add those guys, I message them, and without coming to the table with an ask initially, because that kind of turns people off, I ask them if they're willing to get coffee with me. If I'm interested in the work they've done, and it looks like they've done some cool stuff, I make sure to kind of notate like, hey, I really admire your work on this. I'd love to learn more about what you've done and your company. And that gives you a segue into being of service to them, meeting with them. And again, I can't tell you, having a personal connection with somebody on the inside of a business or a company that you're trying to get into is 1,000 times more effective. And that's not a true statistic. I don't know the exact statistic, but I'll just say 1,000 times more effective. Part of my hyperbole of like getting your foot in the door, getting you an opportunity. So it's funny, we're all different majors: supply chain, finance, accounting. I'm like scanning the room as I say I'm poli-sci, see like who smiles, there's like that's me. But we're all supply chain majors, but until you get your first supply chain job, you're a sales guy and you're selling yourself. And you got to figure out how to do that. That's what I'm trying to teach you right now. There's effective ways to work around and to save yourself time and to build true connections. And the craziest thing too is I'll get coffee with somebody. Nice to meet you. How can I help you? I've helped people move. I've helped people do any odd assortment of jobs or tasks, or maybe I contribute to their meetup or their community. Maybe I sponsor something that they do, and there's no benefit to me at all, and then 6 months later down the road, it ends up leading to one of the biggest deals I've done this year. And you just never know. We talk about take-home actions or homework, right? Like, cool, Lee, that's some really cool stuff. And I actually go speak to students all the time about what they're supposed to do. And I'll meet with them a month later, 2 months later, and I'm like, hey, how's the networking going? Like, you building connections? And they're like, well, I go to this one meetup. I went to a meetup 3 weeks ago, and I'm getting coffee with you now. I'm like, oh, dude, like, you don't get it. I was like, turning me into your life preserve is not going to save you. And so what I understood is that, dude, this is some really vague stuff. You got to turn it tangible. You got to make it real. And so the homework I give people, you want to change your life, like, it's a gut check, man. You want to change your life? Ask yourself, are you willing, and then go do it, to meet with somebody new every day of the week for 2 months straight? That's extremely hard to do, but that's going to build up that networking muscle, okay? I do it for a living. It is extremely tough to do. And here's the best part. After you meet with that person, when you're sitting with them, you're only allowed to ask them one thing, and that's, how can I help you? First, you're going to find out how hard it is to meet with somebody new every day of the week. And second, you're going to find out how rewarding it is when you give back and help other people. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, if you make that your goal, that very tangible daily goal, you're going to watch your life change really quickly. Any other questions? Anybody bring some fresh produce to throw at me? Rotten produce? All right, thanks, guys. I had a blast. Oh, yeah, question. What's up, man? Okay, I'm going to wait till she gives you the mic just for the people on the live stream so they can hear it.
There's as many people watching live as are in the room.
Okay.
How would you approach that "how can I help you" question in a conversation, just so it doesn't sound like awkward?
Yeah, man, so that's a good question. And probably if you're concerned about that, there's going to be an even more awkward question that comes before that, and that's going to be asking somebody you've never met before to get coffee with you. So that's going to be awkward first, right? But you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Everything that's gotten me to where I am today was extremely uncomfortable initially. So to give you some practical advice, when I initially reach out to people, if it's on LinkedIn, there's a number of different methods you can use. And it's not to be disingenuous. It's not to be fake. It's not to be a robot. But it is awkward reaching out to somebody for the first time. If I'm connected with them on LinkedIn, dude, I'm making a genuine effort. I'll say something like, hey, I'm making a genuine effort to connect with my LinkedIn connections in person. Would you like to get coffee sometime? I'd love to learn more about you and what you do. And then when we sit down, we get coffee. It's amazing what happens, man, when you listen. Almost anybody you meet with is going to have plenty to share if they see that you're genuinely interested in what they have to share. And they'll do most of the talking, which is probably a good thing. But as you learn and you sit with them, you're going to find that opportunity. If maybe they're talking about a meetup that they host. Maybe they're talking about a startup they're working on. Those are some of my favorites. I have a lot of really good friends who are working on startups. Maybe they're talking about their different work, but it's a great segue to say, hey, how can I help you with that? My buddy John, who just happened to walk in the back of the room, he'll tell you, man, I reached out to, this is funny, I was just telling him about how to build connections and reach out to people awkwardly. I reached out to John, dude. He posted some really cool stuff on LinkedIn. I said, dude, I dig the way you think, man. I have a lot of the same beliefs. Would you like to get coffee? So we got coffee, just genuine connection. Who are you? What are you about? Oh, cool, this is me, this is what I'm about. How can I help you? And the weird thing is John's the reason I'm here speaking today, is a connection that we made 3 or 4 months ago. And that kind of just solidifies what I've told you so far, is the power of your network and how you can't always predict how things are going to turn out. But if you approach things with the right mindset, trying to help others, being genuine, and if you use the right approaches, the right strategies, it's going to change your life. Did that answer your question, man? Was that decent enough? Okay. I hope I didn't beat around it too much. Any other questions, guys?
How did you get your job that you currently have right now? Did you like go online, or was it through like a personal connection?
That's a great question. So the current gig that I have, I was heads down at my previous position. I was fairly happy. I felt like I had hit a ceiling. And I had started a company on the side as well. I was doing, you guys know what SEO is? Search engine optimization is just making people rank higher on Google. I started a company doing that as well. So I was booked day in, day out, working, no stop, without even looking for a job. And I got pinged by a lady who said she was looking for somebody that I had been referred to her from a contact of mine. And a lot of your network, after you've built up a network and built up relations, it's working for you without you even working it. One of my former clients had recommended me for a position that she had open, and she reached out to me. So again, like it was my network and my connections. So yeah, and every opportunity I've had was through a connection or through somebody I know. And that's just my honest experience. There could be a dude up here 30 minutes from now who's like, job boards are the way. And I hope that you listen to him. All I have is my own genuine experience to share. Got it.
This might be less relevant to your personal experience, but I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, like, a problem I face a lot is unpaid internships. There's so many people applying to jobs that people want to hire you for, like, unpaid work. And if you have the attitude of, like, always wanting to help, how do you keep yourself from being, like, taken advantage of and turning it more into a career path than just a lifetime internship?
You know, that's a great question. That really, I fully understand that too. Because with the mindset of service, you can get burnt out. And you sound like you're somebody who's very similar to me. I'm naturally a giver. I'll give you the shirt off my back, not ask for anything back. And when you're like that way, and you approach life with a mindset of service, unfortunately, and it's not unfortunate, man, but you grow, because you're going to feel a lot of pain before you grow. All growth is driven by pain in some way, shape, or form. That's the only reason I know what I know now, right, is from going through a lot of pain. But you're going to learn that you have to set boundaries, and you're going to be able to recognize people for, there's givers, takers, right? You don't want to give to a taker. But if you're giving to a fellow giver, that's when your life blows up. That's when things get cool. Unpaid internships, I can't tell you how much work I've done for free. If you're doing an unpaid internship, I would only take one that was with a company that you saw a future with. No point in working for free if it's not somewhere where you want to be eventually. But if it is somewhere you want to be eventually, we all go through the gauntlet. We all go through the gauntlet. A year unpaid, that's kind of scary. You just got out of school, so you got to make money, right? I was reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's actually in my briefcase right now. And he takes his son's friend and he teaches them a lesson. And he has them work for 10 cents an hour, like back in the 50s, right? Which was still crap money. And the kid gets super ticked off. And he's like, man, you're taking advantage of me. You're a dirtbag, just like everyone says you're a dirtbag. And he teaches them a few life lessons. And he's like, okay, how about instead of 10 cents, I don't pay you any money? And they're like, what? Like, I came here for a raise. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, when you work for free, you will become creative and you will find ways to grow and make money. And so through that process, the kid uncovered a way for him to create his own business through working with this guy. So if you're working for free, you might be getting a better education than somebody who's getting paid $15 an hour, because you're gonna be hungry and you're gonna be looking for every opportunity that other people might overlook. So don't discredit unpaid internships, a wealth of experience and knowledge.
So with the career fair coming up pretty soon, what should our objective be? Because it's very short, the interactions with the people that are coming there to hire. What should be on your mind? Like, how can I leverage off of that one interaction? Because each interaction is going to last maybe like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, because there's so many people behind you waiting. And so I'm definitely not going to get a job in like 3 minutes going and talking to him. I've never worked in my life before, so that's one thing. So what should I focus on, and how should I leverage the career fair? What should I focus on?
Yeah, good question, man. And I got some practical experience with that. I've worked the career fairs. And for those guys, you got to imagine, dude, they're running into an ocean of faces. And you have great awareness to understand that. So you want to build a genuine connection with the amount of time you have, contact information, and follow-up. Finances come from the follow-up, man. I'm a sales guy. And you got to just follow up. Nobody wants to. Send them the emails. Get an opportunity to get back in front of them, to get that coffee, to get that phone call, to get the time that you're worth, to really get to see what you bring to the table. But contact information, man. Right now, you are building a pipeline of contact information for you to then take and do the follow-up with. Does that make sense? It's a process, man. I don't think the system's perfect, but keep all of those cards, throw them in an Excel, and then when you get some time, write each one of them a genuine email, thanking them for their time and asking them to meet with you again.
Say I wanted to apply for a job or an internship, and I do follow up with them. The easiest response for someone who's coming to the career fair would be that the application is online, fill it out, and send it by the deadline. But how can I go past that?
Yeah, man. So it's kind of like breaking concrete, dude. You're going to hit it in a lot of different points. So if you're following up with this person because you're genuinely interested in the company, this is one avenue that you take, but you're not going to just take the first no you get, man, or you're never going to get in the door. So again, you know the company you're interested in. This is one channel, but if you follow the process that I've shared with you, you're also pinging people on LinkedIn to build new channels. And then you're coming at it from multiple angles. And if you do that numbers game, you're going to find somebody who's open to helping you. That's my life, man. That's what I do for a living. Does that help, though? Is that, like, useful? Yeah. Dude, yeah. And people are more than willing to help you most of the time if they see that you're genuine and you're not trying to use them or take advantage of them.
So, how would you go about trying to network or get a job outside of your major? Like, if your major is kind of specific, so you want to branch out, there's that concern that employers will see that you've got a major or degree in something else and something unrelated, and they'll know that if you get the chance, you'll leave for that more related position. So, how would you handle trying to do something like that?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I think I was part of a panel yesterday that said like 90 or 80% of the people in the workforce today are working in a field unrelated to the majors they took in school. So rest assured in that, don't think that your major is a box. Nobody expects that when you were 18 you knew what you wanted to be when you grew up. So when you want to approach on how to take that, there's a really cool website called meetup.com that will have different events for different industries within your community. And you can look and find the one of maybe you went to school for finance and you found out you're really passionate about digital marketing. and you find that event. And I know it's really hard being somebody who's initially introverted and a little more withdrawn to branch out. But commit to that event, and when you feel uncomfortable, just ask somebody how you can help them. Commit to going to it at least for a few months. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to make a lot of connections. Maybe you're going to find that you're not interested in that realm as much as you thought you were, or maybe you'll find a ton of really cool opportunities within it. But that would be my advice to you, is that's where you could start. And then on the back end, if you're listening to podcasts, reading different blog posts and material on that information because you're passionate about it, people are going to be really impressed with you when you go to the meetup of how much you care and how much you've learned. You can speak to different side projects or passion projects that you have. It'll go a long way to show them your character as a person, and they'll be more willing to help you. Any other questions? Got one up here.
Yeah, so what are the best ways that we can use LinkedIn? Right now, I have a profile built. I never really post anything on there. I have some connections, but how can I go above and beyond?
That's a good question, man. So my activity on social media has definitely been an iterative process. It's evolved over time. My initial picture looked like a mugshot. I was in a Hampton Inn on a work trip, and my boss was like, "You need a LinkedIn profile." So I did this weird camera angle with my selfie using the mirror to try to get a picture that didn't look like I was taking a picture of myself, and it was super awkward. And that was my LinkedIn profile picture for about 2 years till a coworker told me it looked like a mugshot, and then I immediately tried to go get another one. That's going to be your face, your personal brand. I would recommend a book called Me 2.0, which is all about personal branding, but it's going to give you some direction on how you want to express yourself on social media, because you're building a personal brand on social media, whether you believe it or not. And I use it multiple ways, but the ways I use it most often is, again, I've gained free access to these people's attention span. I've also learned that keeping all of my accomplishments and all of my efforts and all of my work to myself don't really serve me. So multiple times a day I'm posting, "Hey, check out this cool project. Oh, happy to work with this client. Oh, ASU Careers Day was super cool." So I'm doing that, which I guess you could call personal marketing, but it's also my gateway to connecting with people at different companies and building connections. So like I had mentioned in the search bar of LinkedIn, you can search different companies. It'll pull up their employees. Look for the ones who are within the department that you think you might like to work for, and don't be discouraged if you don't hear back. Very rarely is it something personal to do with you, rather than maybe they have a personal belief of like, I don't respond to random messages, or maybe they're just super busy. I work with a lot of VPs and directors of different organizations, and I used to get my feelings hurt if they didn't get back to me. And I realized these guys are in meetings from like 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. all day, every day. It's not that they don't want to talk to me, it's just, it's hard for them to find time. And that's why follow-up's critical too. If you send a message and haven't heard back, it's okay to send another message and say, "Hey, not sure if you saw the first one, but again, if you're interested, I'd love to buy you coffee." And that's my first gesture of service, is I offer to pay for the coffee. They're going out of their way, they're taking their time to meet with me, so I make sure it's of no cost to them. Was that helpful? Okay, cool.
If you guys haven't filled out your survey, please do that and hand it to me when you can. Thank you.
Am I done? All right, thanks guys. Hey, so we talked about at the career fair, you jot down people's contact info. There's mine. You can ping me, reach out to me. I'll do my best to help you, okay? Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.